Okay, guys, how are you? Grade 12s. Good day, Mr. Silokela here. So right now we're going to talk about the limits. Okay, so basically when you talk about the limit of a function is denoted by the lim. So the short term for limit, we can say it's lim when x approaches to a certain value of f of x. So basically we get from the statement that the limit of a function is a value that the function tends to approach as the variable in the function. For example, the variable in the function we're talking about, x, tends to approach a specific value. Okay, so let's take for example we have f of x is equals to 2x plus 1 minus 2. Yeah. Okay, so from this graph, we have a restriction that x must not be equals to 2. Why? Because of if, for this graph, if we find the f of 2, basically f of 2, this thing is undefined. It's undefined. So since this thing is undefined, then we can know. So now we need to determine as this thing when what is the where if x is equals to 2, we want to know this function approach to what. So when x approaches 2, what will happen to what? To so let's take this thing really more a limit. So let's say when lim of x approaches 2, where we have 2x plus 1 x minus 2 over x minus 2. So basically from this graph we can see x minus 2 and x minus 2, they cancel. So kosalaga, the limit when x approaches 2 is equals to 2x plus 1. Because of now, if I substitute 2 here, this thing is going to be undefined, and then I can't really determine. But since imfa undefined, it means I need to simplify it first. So okay, simplify it, then imfa a straight line. So straight line is so since straight line is drawing, for example, if I substitute 2 into this function, input 2 multiplied by 2, then plus 1 in 5. So it means the limit when this function approaches to 2, this thing, when x approaches 2, from the left and then from the right hand side, this thing is going to approach 5. This 0 like this here, nothing here. When x becomes 2, this thing becomes undefined. So the limit from this side and to this side, basically the function approach 5. That's how we can get the limit. So we can see let's say for example, when x approaches 2, it means the whole function approach 5. So we can check from our calculate. Let's say we pick numbers. Let's say we have 2 multiplied by, let me take 4,9. No, 2. When it approaches 2, 1,999. So 1,99 plus, we have plus 1. Then we have 2 minus 1,999. Then we have also 2 minus 1,999. You see? So if we substituted values that are before 2, that are closer to 2, x values that are closer to 2 from the left and through the right, this graph is basically approaching what? We can see 4,999. As we substitute the values that are closer to 2 from this graph, this graph is approaching what? Is approaching 5. So basically, when we talk about the basic idea of a limit, okay, so now I want us to do some examples so that we can have a better idea of what's happening. Okay, so a better idea of what's happening. Let's check the first example. Here is the first example. Example number 1. Example number 1, but determine the value of the limit. So our limit is basically x approaches 2 of 2x plus 3. So what you do first, you just punch it on the calculator. We punch more calculating here. If you for undefined, it means you need to simplify it first. Like so when I punch 2 here, for example, you punch 2 multiplied by, you substitute 2 more x, then a plus 3, infa 7. When I punch and then infa in value, then you just substitute. The limit when x approaches 2 of this function is going to be, so it's going to be 2. The minute you start substituting the 2 here, the limit here to this thing inputs or basically the limit when this thing approaches this is going to be 7. That's the first example that we are doing. Okay, now the second example, this one it was easy. You just substitute because we don't get any undefined. So now let's check the second example. The second example, when we substitute, we are given that the limit when h approaches 0, we have 2h squared plus 5h divided by h. This is what we have. So what happens when I substitute 0? When I substitute 0, you will see when you substitute 0 in this function, you get undefined. So you substitute first. If you get undefined, it means for you to solve this thing, you need to add, you need to simplify this thing first. And then usually we simplify this thing by using what? Factorization. We simplify these things using what? Using factorization. So before we do this one, I want us to recap factorization. So it's very important, factorization. So it's very important to recap factorization. So you remember factorization ke part ya. So right, or factorization, if I have a squared minus b squared, the difference of two squares. I get yoba a minus b, a plus b. Again, then if I have a squared minus 2ab plus b squared, this is the things that you need to take into consideration. So konaling a minus b when I factorize it. So this is basically a minus b all squared. Okay, you must understand these things, guys. Then we have let this one, for example, if bamfile b minus a, if kenya go di change, then I give it this thing in another form. I can just say take out the minus outside, as long as the minus between them. Katsia a ka tlisa mo pele, katsia b ka isa ko morago. Somehow you'll be required to do something like this. Or let's say maybe kinale sum of two cubes, right? So you find the cube root of the first one, you find the cube root of the second one, then they form a quadratic. So since more plus more, then more it go since plus more it go minus between, right? Then you take the first one, the first one it's on to ring, it's on to a squared, because a squared, a multiplied by a squared k a cubed. Then you check the last one on to being b multiplied your one b squared. Then in the middle term, you just multiply this one and this one, you for ab. Then I factorize the cubic, or we have difference of two cubes, b cubed. A minus b, cube root them, and after cube rooting them, first term a squared. So if a, this one is going to be plus, this multiplied by this one is going to be ab. So this one is always going to be plus when we're finding sum of two cubes. But if it's plus, moiva minus. If it's minus, moiva plus. But this one is forever. This one will always be positive. Okay, so this is the factorizations that you need to you need to think of, when the principles of factorization that you need to think of as you will be doing the limits. Okay, I will discuss that example, the example 2, in the next video. Thank you guys.